All right, that's great. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's your good friend Possible here, and I am back doing what I do best, having a day late and dollar short movie review of Red Dawn. That's right. I got so excited when I saw this. I already saw the original one. I have got to admit, I wasn't blown away by the original Red Dawn, but this one blew me away. I really like this Red Dawn. It's always a funny story. This sometimes the background story is more entertaining than the movie itself. Not true here. This is a very entertaining movie. That said, this movie was actually filmed back in 2009. Finished a long time ago, but it's one of those we're going to release it because we've got stars now. Okay, when this movie was made, Chris Hemsworth was nothing more than a 5-second introduction to James Kirk's father, and Josh Hutcherson was still just Josh Hutcherson. He hasn't changed that much. But the point is, once they became stars, they decided, hey, let's release this and see if we can reap back any of our money. They didn't have the money to finance it back in the day. They didn't think it was going to take off because in 2009, they had a bunch of nobodies. But now, 3 years later, we got some big stores. We've got Thor in the middle there. We've got Hunger Games over to the side, and some checks. But that said, we got a very good movie, and I was very happy with this movie. I was worried about it. I mean, come on. What's the plot? Chinese invade America. Just like in Red Dawn, the first one, in which case Russia invaded America. They start taking over the place, and these guys were able to get away just long enough to fight back. And fight back they do. That part, I have to admit, I was kind of taken back a little bit. Remember in the first one, I don't know if you saw it yet, but the reason they fought back is because the Russians kept taking people out and shooting them. So they knew that if they didn't fight back, they were going to be dead anyway. Here, it was more of their just decision to fight. I mean, they did have that choice. They could run away or they could fight. But after certain tragedies and certain revelations, they decide, hey, it's time to stick around and get some revenge. The reason this movie worked for me is because there was always more going on than what you saw. You saw some of it in the background, little things here, little things there. For the most part, it starts off really simple, but then it gets complicated. And the way they're juggling this, though, it really worked. I really enjoyed it because ultimately you definitely enjoyed the characters. You got Chris Hemsworth in the middle. He's Jed. He's trying to keep his ragtag group of terrorists, vigilantes, freedom fighters, whatever you want to call them, together as they try to, make it difficult for the Chinese and or North Koreans to be here. Why did I change it? Well, because they changed it. When the movie was being promoted, they said it was the Chinese. When it was actually put in post-production, they changed it to North Korea. But they mentioned that they've got help, so it's a kind of a combination of all our enemies finally coming to get us. Paranoid? Maybe. Fun? Definitely. And it's just one of those movies that you can sit back and enjoy. I was thinking about this just before I did this review. I was wondering to myself, why do we feel the need? Why are we afraid of making an enemy of someone outside ourselves? Why not have a movie where the Chinese are the enemy, where Russia is the enemy, like the old '80s movies where they could come after us? Some people would say, "Oh, that's just America being all full of itself again," Yeah, partially, but more to the fact is, let's face it, the reality is, they make a lot of these internal drama movies because there's more about someone who goes against their code, somebody who goes against their promises, and somebody who's on the inside being more unpredictable than something like this. Because let's face it, you know what's going to happen. If you got somebody who's on the other side of the fence, and it's clear who they are. That's one thing I gotta love about this movie. It's pretty clear who the bad guys are, who the good guys are, because they look so differently. The fact that one's American and the one's Oriental should not make that much of a difference. It's just a movie. Would it be considered offensive? To be honest, I'm gonna say no. I didn't find it very offensive. I just, it was just a movie. They were the villains. They were doing what villains do. It's the way it is. And, these were the heroes. They did what heroes do. They kept enough of the same to make it Red Dawn, but they changed enough of it to make it their own. And that is why it's a see it. That is why I really enjoyed this movie. The characters were likable. I felt the characters had more depth. in this one myself, personally. The story was a little bit more involved, and it was a little bit more angst and more like, oh my God, something, don't they realize what's really going on, and, stuff like that. But you believe it. I believed it, and I enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. Just one thing I did want to point out, I'm starting to notice Josh Hutcherson is hanging out with the Hemsworth way too much. I mean, he got Red Dawn with Chris, Hunger Games, and Catching Fire with Liam. Are these guys inseparable? Well, who knows? I don't think so. But should the Hemsworth brothers be worried about it? It's not for me to say whether or not they should be worried about Josh Hutcherson always hanging around. Josh Hutcherson, I have to admit, had a great role in this Red Dawn. He had the role of the guy who's not a fighter, not an athlete, but now he has to be, and he plays it off really well, and I was really pleased with him. I was pleased with everybody. Even the villains. You did a great job being villainous, which is what you're supposed to do. So I would recommend seeing it. If you haven't yet, give it a shot, enjoy it, get some pizza, watch shit blow up. You'll enjoy it. Okay, guys, that's it for me today. Take care. We'll see you next time. Later.